Hey guys, happy Thursday. So, what a fantastic week this week if you live under a rock or an extremely lucky person. This week for us has been marked by unpleasant conversations, clueless brokers, disorganized shippers, and long working hours that did end up resulting in some luck for us, so I will take it. But yeah, this week, in terms of the experience of this week, as well as the data that I'm about to show you, is not that great, but I'm going to share it anyway because on this channel, we like to face the reality of the situation, right? Right. So let's chat about the market, how it has changed since last week in terms of volumes, diesel prices, capacity, rejections, and then we will try to dig out the relatively better places for dry vans, reefers, and flatbeds to stick to. Ready? Let's go. Hey guys, just popping in here real quick to mention today's sponsor, Factor. We all know that this market forces us to spend the bulk of our day on our operations. With the amount of time I spend booking loads, fighting over rates, crunching numbers, and fixing all those operational issues, the one thing that I rarely have time for is to figure out what am I going to eat. But Factor makes it easy. No more wasting time on grocery shopping, prepping, and cooking. With over 35 meals to choose from per week, including options like keto, that's the one that I get, calorie smart, vegan plus veggie, and more, I get a chef prepared meal in 2 minutes. And the best part, it is always fresh, never frozen. I hate frozen. Fighting to stay in business is hungry work. And there's something therapeutic about choosing your Factor meal and stabbing the plastic wrap with a fork to unleash your frustration with the day. You pop it into a microwave and 2 minutes later, you enjoy a delicious meal. So if you want to give Factor a shot, head to factor75.com or click the link below and use code TRUCKING50 to get 50% off your first Factor box and 20% off your next month of orders. That's code TRUCKING50 at factor75.com to get 50% off your first box plus 20% off your next month of orders. All right, starting with the net change in carrier population. I know the format looks a little bit different this week. It's Sonar. What can you do? So as of last Friday, we actually gained 183 carriers net. Now, when looking at the spot versus contract rate spread, the dark blue line is us in 2024, the light blue is 2023. And we can see that the contract rates have been increasing actually. The lower it is, the more the margin between what contract carriers earn and what spot carriers earn. Currently, contract carriers are earning on average 65 cents per mile more than those spot carriers. Now let's talk about the volumes and rejections in the general market. In this case, they are together. Volumes are on top, rejections are at the bottom. The dark blue line is us in 2024, the light blue is 2023. So we're comparing the two. So first, let's talk about volume. Volume has been trending above 2023 levels, obviously, and it is following the 2023 pattern as well. Currently, volumes are on their way down a little bit. We'll see if they continue following the pattern and if we can expect to see any increase in volume from now until the end of the year. Now, rejection-wise, they have also been, for the most part, trending above 2023 levels, but as of late, they're getting closer to those 2023 levels. This is where we are right now. As you can see, rejections made a small U-turn on their way down, and currently rejections are at 4.49%. Finally, we have our diesel prices according to actual truck stops, and this is from the beginning of the year until now. And you can see that diesel prices have been decreasing and they're continuing to decrease. According to truck stops around the US, the average diesel price is $3.63 per gallon. All right, now let's take a look at what is happening on the spot market for the three different equipment types: dry vans, reefers, and flatbeds. We're starting with dry vans using the FTR Intel data. So on the spot market, week over week, Dry vans saw a 6-cent decrease in 1 week on average. Rates year over year are down 5.6%. So they're 5.6% lower than this time last year. And over the past 5 years, they are down 16%. Now, these rates went down even though the volumes week over week on the spot market increased by 11%. And the likely scenario is that capacity might have increased in the market. Now, volumes year over year comparing to last year are down 30% for dry vans, and over the past 5 years, they're down 48%. Now, in order to figure out the relatively better places for dry vans to be in, we use the sonar maps, the rejections and volumes to figure out where more contract freight hits the spot market. So first, let's talk about the top 5 market areas in terms of volumes in the general market for dry vans. Ontario, California, Los Angeles, California, Atlanta, Georgia, Dallas, Texas, and Detroit, Michigan. Now, let's take a look at the top 5 rejection market areas with the rejections in the brackets. Cedar Rapids, Iowa, Des Moines, Iowa, Green Bay, Wisconsin, Erie, Pennsylvania, which is new this week, and Huntington, West Virginia. It's a mouthful. It's hard for me to pronounce, which is also new this week. Neither the volumes nor the rejections tell us the best market areas. We have to put the two together. The top 5 markets where more contract freight hits the spot market are Houston, Texas, Ontario, California, Green Bay, Wisconsin, Los Angeles, California, and Atlanta, Georgia. Now, volume doesn't mean anything without understanding what is happening with capacity on that spot market. So to figure that out, I use DAT's heat maps. Houston, Texas is a hot market, which means there are more loads than there are trucks, but it's surrounded by overcapacity, which means deadheading trucks diluting the situation. Ontario, California is also a hot market, and there is also some capacity, not as much as Houston, but some capacity surrounding it. Green Bay, Wisconsin is a lukewarm market, to say the least, and there's overcapacity around. Los Angeles, California is like Ontario, California. Hot market, but some capacity around. And then Atlanta, Georgia is warm. It's a little bit better than Green Bay, Wisconsin, but there is significant overcapacity around, diluting the situation. Now let's talk about reefers and the spot market. Just like dry vans, they saw a decrease in the rate per mile, the average rate per mile. For reefers, it was by 2 cents. Now, comparing to last year, rates are down 3%, and comparing over the past 5 years, reefer rates on the spot market are down 12%, despite the fact that volumes week over week increased by 12%. Now, year over year, volumes are actually 12% lower now than they were at this time last year, and 38% lower than the 5-year average. Now, again, we're going to be looking at rejections and volumes by sonar in order to figure out the relatively better places for reefers. So the top 5 volume markets for reefers in the general market are Joplin, Missouri, Allentown, Pennsylvania, Lakeland, Florida, Joliet, Illinois, and Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. Now, in terms of rejections, again, rejections are in the brackets. Top 5 markets are Cedar Rapids, Iowa, Portland, Oregon, Little Rock, Arkansas, Pendleton, Oregon, and Dubuque, Iowa. Now, again, this doesn't tell us anything about whether this is a good or bad market. We have to put them together. So the top 5 where more contract freight hits the spot market for reefers are Twin Falls, Idaho, Joplin, Missouri, Joliet, Illinois, Pendleton, Oregon, and Atlanta, Georgia. But looking at the capacity on the spot market in those areas is very important. And what we can see is Twin Falls, Idaho is a hot market, and there is limited capacity around. So not much that is going to dilute the load to truck ratio in Twin Falls. Joplin, Missouri is just a warm market, and there is some capacity around. Joliet, Illinois is a lukewarm market at best and overcapacity around. Pendleton, Oregon is also a hot market, just like Twin Falls, Idaho, and there's limited capacity around there as well. And Atlanta, Georgia is a warm market, but surrounded by deadheading trucks, diluting the load to truck ratio and therefore driving those rates down. Finally, we have our flatbeds, and just like the other two equipment types on the spot market, flatbeds saw a decrease in the average rate per mile. In the case of flatbeds, it was 2 cents per mile. Now, rates year over year are down 3.6%, and over the past 5 years, down 9%. Now, volumes week over week saw an almost 27% increase, which is insane. And volumes year over year are 7% higher than they were last year, which tells me that there is just an overcapacity problem with flatbeds as well right now, which is driving those rates down. Now, over the past 5 years, the volumes are down by 31%. So again, I don't have sonar maps to look at the general market for flatbeds, so I look at the spot market by creating these maps using truck stop data. This is the load map. The darker an area is, the more loads come out of those areas. As always, it's the South, it's the East Coast, it's the Midwest, and it's the West Coast. Nothing really coming out of those plain states. But now the question is, where is the flatbed capacity at? Flatbed capacity is mostly in California and Texas, and also in the East Coast and Midwest. Not much happening in the Pacific Northwest, not much happening in the plain states except for Colorado. Now, putting the capacity and the load volumes together, we can get a semblance of what the load to truck ratio looks like in each of these states. Red is overcapacity, which means that anything that you see that is red, there is less than a load per truck. Anything beige, like right here and right here, this is about 1 load per truck. Yellow, like Idaho and South Carolina, this is about 2 loads per truck. And anything green, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 states this time, including Vermont, which is new, this is over 3 loads per truck. I'm guessing this is a temporary situation, maybe. But yeah, more green states around right now, more areas where there are more loads than trucks, but there's also a ton of red now. And obviously the West Coast is dying slowly, especially the Southwest, right? California, Nevada, it is dying for flatbeds. So since I started this channel, I remember there is this one comment that keeps popping up. Stop sharing your strategy. You are training the competition. But you know what? I have never kept the realities from you guys, and I'm not about to start now. The market is crap. We can all agree on that. But I have noticed that there is a strategy that has worked for me during this horrific downturn in the freight market, and that strategy is the waiting game. I'll give you an example. I had a truck that was stuck in Minnesota near Minneapolis, and as always, I'm always at the load board at 5 a.m. my time, Pacific time. So I was at the load board looking for a load from 5 a.m., which was 7 a.m. in Minnesota. The loads were absolute crap. 80% of them were partials that you couldn't even put together to create a decent rate per mile, and the rest of the loads were either like $1.70 per mile, which was the best the load board had to offer, or a higher rate per mile, but the miles were so darn short that there was really no gross income to be made. So as uncomfortable as it was, and it is every single day, I ended up waiting, and I booked the load at 2 p.m., a little bit before 2 p.m. my time, for $4.02 per mile with deadhead. More specifically, $1,550 for 385.4 miles with deadhead. Did it require tarps? Yes, of course, but still, it's a pretty decent rate per mile. So what I have been noticing more often than not is that before lunch, people are booking like crazy. Loads are flying off the load board, and brokers start reposting their loads for lower rates because it's like a frenzy, and they get to put more money in their pocket because they see what's happening. But after lunch, even though the loads that are coming out, it's just a fraction of what was there, and sometimes it takes like 30 minutes for a load to come out, not many people are booking anymore. There's definitely no frenzy going on because most have already covered their truck trucks for the crappy rates because they were too afraid to lose the day. And that's exactly when I start booking, even though I'm always keeping my eye on the load board from 5 a.m. And to be quite honest, this waiting game strategy is what has saved us during this horrific downturn in the market. Can this cause you to lose a day? Yes. Have I lost days using the strategy? Absolutely. But more often than not, I end up with a decent paying load. So please, for crying out loud, stop panic booking. Now, I understand that the worst time is Friday, especially if you have a flatbed, because if you do not book a load on Friday, you basically are guaranteeing that your whole weekend is lost, since for flatbeds in particular, there are almost no shippers that work on Saturday and Sunday. I understand the fear, and that's why Fridays are especially crazy, but please don't book a load just for the sake of being able to say, hey, I hauled something this weekend, I didn't have an empty truck. I see a lot of that lately, and the way I know it's panic booking is because, the cost per mile, everyone's is different, so I can't say that this is a low rate and it's not gonna work for anyone, right? But what I see happening in a bad market area, or especially on Fridays, people are booking like crazy within seconds loads that are posted by brokers with either no credit score or a horrific credit score, knowing full well that they are not going to get paid. So either people are not paying attention to what they're booking, or they just want to book for the sake of saying, I hauled something this weekend. So yeah, my 2 cents is that I know it's uncomfortable playing the waiting game. It's extremely uncomfortable actually, but it's worth it more often than not. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for joining me and watching today. I hope you have a fantastic rest of your day. Stay safe, stay healthy, and keep learning, and I will see you in the next video.